13th of February. Right here.
Should I just, as you like?
So, welcome back, everybody. Welcome, visitors, to the Shala. Make sure you come close. So, if you want to come close, you're welcome. You don't have to be at the back, girls over there. Please come in. There's a wall space by the side. If you want to have a wall, bring your props, bring your playthings. There's a space here, Agnes.
Closer the better.
Closer the better. There's a space here, Agnes, if you want to come. Don't be shy. Oh, it's hot. Do you want a fan on you, or are you okay?
No,
You're okay.
I think it's fine.
The fan's at the side, not above. Okay. Oh, you have two cameras on you now.
What's that?
You've got two cameras on you now.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna get
There's
nervous.
trouble. Getting nervous. So welcome back, and so Ira's going to continue his talks and connect it more to practical. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Okay.
Ira.
So we'll begin the same way as yesterday with that opening mantra. I'll just recite it. If you know, you can join in. And that's Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavati Tamastu Mavitvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, so very briefly, I'm just going to, I talked about a lot of things yesterday, but the two fundamental things that I spoke about was that the Atman, the self in this teaching, is the witness inside everybody. That inside everybody there's a witness, and that witness turns out to be the absolute reality. Infinite bliss. It's hard to believe that that which is lighting up my thoughts is the only thing that truly exists. It never changes. It's all pervading. It's beyond time and space. Even though it's lighting up my thoughts, it's kind of like infinite space. And if you were to take a bunch of cups, in each cup you say, oh, there's space in this cup and space in this cup. But there's just one space in all the cups. That one space is the witness in you. That's the true self. That's who we really are, always and forever. That's the teaching. This is the ancient teaching of the Upanishads. You are that. The second point that I tried to make was that even though that's the case, that it's a fact, it's not that you'll become that when you go to heaven or when something happens. It's an already fact. Nobody knows that fact. Not only doesn't anybody know that fact, everybody has a misconception about that fact. Even though I am that eternal witnessing consciousness which is beyond time, space, and causality, I am convinced that I am this. I've taken myself, the subject, to be the object. And I say, I am fat, I am tall, I am a man, I am a woman, I am happy, I am sad. All objects. I've mixed up myself with the not self. And this misconception is just a misconception. There's nothing more to it than that. You're always the witness. Suppose you were to say, I'm the witness. And then you have another thought. I'm not the witness. I believe in the witness. I don't believe in the witness. That consciousness in which all those thoughts are appearing in you, that's the witness. You can't negate it. You can't think it away. There's no experience when it's not there. And even when there's no experience, the reason you know there's no experience is because you're still there. That's the self. We mix them up. That mixing up is called avidya, ignorance. The whole purpose of this teaching is just to remove that ignorance. So these are the two fundamental points. If you don't understand this, then the rest of the Upanishadic philosophy is almost you can't understand it. Once you know that the self is the witness of my own thoughts, including this I thought, this ego, that I think I'm so identified with this I that I can't imagine myself as being anything other than that. But the witness, there is a witness in you that even knows this I thought. That I thought is not always there, and it's always changing. I am fair, I am dark, I am happy, I am sad, I am sitting, I am walking, I'm in pain, I'm not in pain. I. This I, it's changing. How do you know it's changing? Because it's an object to you. In deep sleep, the ego is totally different. You could be, now a new ego is appearing. You're still the witness. And in deep sleep, there's no ego. So the ego is changing, it can't be you. But we identify with this I thought. That's the whole samsara, that's the whole cause of suffering, nothing other than a misconception. So, let me say something about the witness a little bit more, which is that this witness, because it never changes, it's not in time, it can't change, it has no parts, it can't modify itself in any way, it's eternally the same. That witness is the only reality in Vedanta. You are that which is all that ever was. Right now, you are all that is, and you are all that will ever be. There's only one reality without a second. What you call this world is you. That one reality, ekam advityam, without a second, has another name in Sanskrit. You've probably heard of it. It's called Brahman. Brahman in Sanskrit means the absolute non-dual reality. So the third point I want to discuss briefly is that the highest truth in Vedanta is that there's just this one absolute reality, which is your own self. That's all that ever was, is, or will be. There never was anything other than that. There's nothing other than that now. There never will be. What does that mean? There's no gurus. There's nobody suffering. There's nobody who has to get out of suffering. Because there's only Brahman. That's the highest truth. That's called the absolute point of view. From the absolute point of view, there's just one reality without a second. But there's another point of view, the point of view of ignorance, the point of view of duality. It's kind of like when you're in the waking state, the cup is real because I can see it, touch it, smell it, taste it. You guys can see it, touch it, smell it. It has causal efficacy. It's real. And ghosts and goblins and flying elephants are not real. In the world, the things that I know through my senses and use and can understand through reason is real. And what is not available to the senses and is against reason, we say is unreal. That's called the empirical point of view. So, when Vedanta says you are ignorant, is that the absolute point of view or the relative point of view? That's just the relative point of view. When it says you have to get rid of this misconception and then you'll be free, is that the absolute or relative point of view? No? Anyone else? I'm going to recite a verse from the 5th century AD, a famous person who taught this philosophy that I'm talking about. And he has a verse that goes like this: Na utpatti na nirodha na bada na sadhakaha na mamukshu na muktaha iti esha paramartaha. Translation: there is no creation, there is no destruction, there's nobody bound, there's nobody practicing spiritual discipline, there's nobody who desires liberation, and there's nobody liberated. Iti esha paramartaha. That is the highest truth. This whole thing that I've been talking to you about, you guys don't know yourself, I don't know myself, I've identified with this thing and I'm suffering. None of that is the highest truth. That Brahman, the self, which is the absolute reality, is so non-dual that in it there's no duality whatsoever of somebody bound, somebody has to find a guru, somebody has to get liberated. In that absolute truth, none of that exists at all. There's actually 3 definitions in Advaita Vedanta, non-dual Vedanta, that describe the nature of this absolute reality. It's na sajati beda, na vijati beda, na svagati beda. And what that means is this. Let's make believe the self or Brahman, that absolute reality is like one big orange. Yeah? That's the only reality. That's Brahman. So the definition is, other than that orange, other than that Brahman, other than that self, there's no other thing that's the same as it. That's called Nasa Jati Beda. Other than that reality, there's no other reality that's the same as it. That means there's not 2 Brahmans. The second definition is that other than that reality, there's no other reality that's different from it, like an apple or a pear. Other than that Atman, your true self, there's no other thing that's different from it. And the third definition is Nasvagati Beda. Within that reality itself, not outside of it, within that one reality, within it, there's no multiplicity. There's no duality in it, and there's nothing outside of it, either the same as it or different from it. That's called Advaita, non-duality, radical non-duality. That's the self. That's the meaning of the non-dual self in Vedanta. There's no other teaching in India or anywhere else in the world that believes in such a thing. It's perhaps the most ridiculous teaching you could ever hear, because it seems to contradict everyone's common experience. And unless you study Vedanta, it has to appear to you as something not even to be taken seriously. There's no world. There's nobody suffering. Nobody who wants to put an end to their suffering. There was no Buddha, no Shankara, no gurus, no scriptures. Where are we going to go with that? What's the benefit of any of that? How am I going to get any benefit from that? I don't even exist. What's the benefit? This is a side joke. Somebody once went to my teacher and said, Swamiji, what's the benefit of all of this? If everything is just one, how am I going to get any benefit from it? What's the benefit? So this Swamiji said to the guy, well, perhaps there's just one benefit. What's that, Swamiji? You finally get rid of the guy that keeps asking, what's the benefit? We always want some benefit. That's the suffering, wanting a benefit. Vedanta gets rid of that. You are that doesn't want any benefit. You don't need any benefit. Tattvamasi. So anyway, the empirical point of view, as long as we're in ignorance, I am this. That's where Vedanta begins, in ignorance. It wants to teach us the absolute, but it has to begin in ignorance. It has to begin in duality. The teachings in duality, the idea that I'm going to get the teaching, and I'm in ignorance, and I'll get the knowledge, and that will remove my ignorance. All of that is only in ignorance. So when we're reading these type of texts, and we hear that you have to get a teacher, or that you're suffering because you don't know the self, you have to realize the self, you should know, this is from not the highest point of view. This is the relative point of view, the empirical point of view. This distinction between the empirical and the absolute, it's important to at least appreciate, so that we don't get mixed up, because if the empirical point of view and the absolute are mixed up, then the whole teaching becomes contradictory. So I just wanted to mention that third point. That absolute, there's no duality in it at all. But from this point of view, you guys came here, you're studying yoga, you want to master it and have a life, you're going back. It's all real. It's just like in a dream. As long as you're in the dream, it's real. Until you wake up, it's waking. If you're thirsty in the dream, you got to find some dream water. And when you find it and you take a drink, you know what? It quenches your dream thirst. It's all real. But the moment you wake up, then you realize, it was only a dream. None of it was real. The only thing that was real in that whole thing was me. Because I was the light that lit up that whole appearance. But in the dream, it's all real. So here, we're in the dream. The dream of being born, getting old, getting sick, and dying. The dream of I'm awake, and then I dreamt, and then I slept, and then I woke up. It's all a dream because we don't know the true self that never went to sleep, never woke up, was never born, doesn't get old, doesn't get sick, and doesn't die. Until that knowledge arises, this is absolutely true. You can't negate it. So, since that's where we all are, we're all in this boat together. We all feel I am this is mine, I am this body, this is my house, my car, my money, my wife, my children. And sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I'm not happy, and I want to be really happy, and I don't want to die. This is where we begin. This is where the Vedanta begins. So, once I'm in this situation, then I want to be happy. So where am I going to find happiness? I have to find it outside. Good meal, a beautiful partner, a wonderful house, a nice car. These are the things that bring me happiness. Illness, getting sued, getting hit by a car, they bring me unhappiness. I'm going to try to avoid all the bad things, and I'm going to try to get all the good things. The problem with this strategy is that I never really get all the good things that I want. If I do get them, I lose interest in them. If I don't lose interest in them, something takes it away. And all the things that I try to avoid, that lump that the doctor found on the x-ray, my loved one dying, going bankrupt, all the things I try to avoid, they're unavoidable. So, it's from that point of view. I want to be happy, I want to be free, and I don't want to die. So, from that point of view, we go to a teacher, all in duality. And the teacher says, you're only suffering because you don't know yourself. You've made a mistake. Examine your experience right here and now and see, are you really this body, mind, senses, and ego? Or are you Satchitananda, existence beyond time and space, consciousness free from all objects, and bliss, infinite bliss, not caused by anything? Check your experience, and that'll put an end to the misconception. How do I check my experience? The only way to do it, anybody remember that restaurant door I was talking about? Because the mind is out, looking for happiness, looking for freedom, looking for peace, that extrovert mind could never know this truth. So what's required is to take that mind and to introvert it. This is the practical approach. The whole problem's in the mind that's filled with desire to enjoy the outside things. Greed, hatred, jealousy, all of these defects that our minds are filled with, the mind has to become purified. That's the whole spiritual practice, really, is to purify the mind, to make it capable so that we can understand, I am that. As long as the mind is extrovert, in 1,000,000 years you can never know, I am that. Shivoham, Shivoham. Chitananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham. I am that conscious bliss, I am Shiva, I am Shiva. As long as the mind is out. So the whole sadhana, the whole spiritual practice is to lose interest in these things, realizing that they can't possibly bring me what I really want. And the mind has to turn away from that and become introverted, at least for some time. This turning back of the mind is the spiritual journey, leaving all of the other stuff behind and turning away from it. This is the spiritual journey, the inner journey. Beating the path back to our inner self, that self which is the most in, the most pure, the most subtle. Our minds have to become in and pure and extremely subtle. A gross mind filled with desires and hopes and fears and greed can never know this truth. You can say Tattvamasi, 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 and he says, let's get lunch. It means nothing. It's like singing to the deaf. Because that self is the most in, the most pure, the most subtle, our minds have to be made like the self. They have to become introvert. They have to become pure. What do I mean by pure? I don't mean by a pure mind, we shouldn't think any dirty thoughts or anything like that. It doesn't mean, when the mind is on the world, that's called an impure mind. Nothing more. It's the monkey mind. It's there. It's there. Krishna says, Ananta Shaka, infinitely branched. Once the mind is out, it's here and there, this like, this dislike, this hope, this fear, endless. That's called an impure mind. When the mind turns back to that witnessing consciousness that's in you, that thing never changes. So when the mind is riveted on that, when it turns to that, when it wants to join with that, that's called yoga. That's the meaning of yoga. That's the practical aspect of Advaita Vedanta, that our minds have to become purified. And once it's purified and introvert and subtle enough, when you hear the teaching, you are that. There is nothing is clear, nothing so near, nothing so obvious, because it's your own self. It's self-lit. It doesn't need anything to make it known. That's called yoga. The word yoga means to join. Yujite, the root for yoga is yuj. Joining your mind to that is yoga. That's the spiritual journey, the yogic journey, the spiritual. It's a very lonely journey. This spiritual journey, I'm sorry to tell everybody, you can't bring your friends. You can't bring a suitcase. You can't bring your money, your house. You have to turn away from it all. And at the end of the journey, even this I, you'll have to give him up too. We make this journey alone. Nobody can come with you. The teacher can point you in the direction, but you have to go there. You have to see it for yourself. So if yoga means joining to that, in a secondary sense, everything that helps us to join to that is also yoga, or a part of yoga. For example, eating sattvic foods. The word sattvic foods means pure foods. Everybody know about sattva, rajas, and tamas? No. So, they usually divide food in the old days before modern nutrition into three categories. Tamasika food, that's dirty, rotten meat, and things like this was called tamas. When you eat it, it makes the mind either filled with passion or dull. And then dull. There's other types of food that make you rajasic, filled with passion. So a yogi tries to avoid those, and he tries to eat sattvic foods. The diet is very important. In the Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, yoga, methinks, is not for one who eats too much, nor for one who doesn't eat at all. Eating but little, sleeping but little, this is the way of yoga, Arjuna. There's a passage there like that. So our diet becomes important. In order to do yoga properly, to turn that mind in, this body that we're so identified with should not become a problem for us. We should keep the body healthy. This is where asana is a wonderful thing to keep the body. Because if your knee is hurting or your back is hurting, you know where the mind goes? It's not going to go to the witness. It'll go right to the knee. If you have a bellyache, don't talk to me about the witness. I got to get some medicine. So you got to keep the body healthy. The diet should be good. Sleep should be proper. The company that you hang out with should inspire this type of thing. And the people that are living a life that's taking them far away, we keep them at somewhat of a distance, because our company affects how our mind is. And then we get to some more practical things. In my ignorance, I take myself to be, I am this. The identification with this body is so thick. You can listen to 100 of these talks. I guarantee you, everybody gets up, you walk out of here, I'm the body. So nobody's getting liberated from this talk. So you're the body. So if you're the body, that means you're the doer. You do things. With my hands, I can do. With my legs, I can do. With my mouth, I can. Doing things is called karma. In Sanskrit, the Sanskrit word karma means action. We're all actors. Even though the self never acts, the self is the unchanging reality. But because I'm identified with this, I can't stop acting for a second. If somebody says, I'm going to stop all action, he won't be able to do it. What do you mean? I'm going to go to a cave. I'm going to stop everything. What are you going to do in the cave? Are you going to be thinking? Mm-hmm. Well, that's an action. How about, will you be breathing in the cave? Yeah, I'll be breathing. Well, that's an action. You can't stop acting. So we have to act, karma. How to make those actions. Oh, by the way, normally we do actions in a particular way in our ignorance. I do what I like to do, and I don't do what I don't like to do. I'm free. I do what I like, that's called raga, and I don't do what I don't like. That's called dvesha. So when I do an action to try to get what I like, that action produces a result. I'm doing it to get that result. But sometimes that result doesn't happen. When the result happens, you know what the result is? I'm elated. I got it. I want ice cream. I'm going to the store. That's a karma. I open the thing. That's a karma. I take the spoon. That's a karma. Hits the tongue. That's a karma. Ah, happy. I got the fruit of that karma. That in Sanskrit is called karma pala, the fruit of the action. But suppose I went to the store, I bought the thing, I opened it up, and the ice cream turned sour. And now, I don't know if that's, yeah, it was out in the sun, so, and now I go, I did all the actions, but the result was, So this is called Sukhi Dukhi Samsari. Sometimes happy, sometimes sad. The fruits of our actions, we never know if we're going to get them or not. And if they come, they make us happy. If what we don't, they make us sad. We're bound by the karma. It's called the bondage of karma. So there's a sadhana that's taught in the Bhagavad Gita, in Vedanta, to teach us how can we make this, since I can't stop doing actions for a second, is there a way to do actions that it won't bind me and it'll actually become a sadhana, it'll become a means to join with that Supreme Being. When I do actions like that, does anybody know what that's called? Nobody? Has anyone ever heard of karma yoga? You probably do it here in the kitchen. Karma yoga means I'm going to do all of those actions. Whatever I do, I'm going to do it with a different attitude. I don't care what the result is. The result's going to come. I don't care. I have dispassion towards the fruit of the action. I'm going to perform it with an attitude. I'm doing everything that I do as an offering to that Supreme Being. I'm a limited person now. That Supreme Being, the witness, is Krishna. That's who Krishna is, by the way. That's who Krishna says he is. He says, Aham Atma Gudakesha Sarva Bhuteshu. I am the self in all beings. Krishna is yourself, and yourself, that's Krishna. But in our ignorance, we take ourselves to be a limited jiva, a limited individual living being. And when I'm like that, then Krishna's the Supreme Being, different from me. And I'm going to do all of my actions as an offering to that. And I don't care. Let Krishna take care of the fruit. When actions are performed like that, we become freed. The mind becomes purified. No longer sukhi dukhi. Because whatever, happy and sad. Because whatever the fruit is, I'm unconcerned. I've done it for him. He's taken it, and so it's his fruit. Does anybody know what the word prasad is? Anybody know prasad? Has anybody gone to a Hindu temple? When you go to a Hindu temple, they usually do some offering, and then they offer some food to the deity, or some candy, or some sweets. Then they take those sweets and they walk around, and you put out your hand like this, and they dump something in your hand. Sound familiar? Maybe, yeah? So that thing that they dump in your hand, you're supposed to go like this, very humble, and they put the thing in your hand, and that's called prasad. It's been offered to God, and now you get it. And you're supposed to, without any question, because now it's coming, you drop it in. You never say to the guy who, I don't really, you got anything else over there? This is not my, no, any chocolate? No, because it's prasad. You're supposed to accept it as it's coming from him, and you're blessed by it. When all of the fruits of your actions are taken like it's coming from him, he knows best. Even the bad things, somehow there must be some good thing in it. I'll take it as his prasad. I do the action for him, And whatever that fruit is, also, everything comes from him. He's the one from which the whole universe comes, from which all the laws of nature have come. So everything that's coming according to the laws of nature ultimately come from him. That attitude is called karma yoga. You've now yoked the actions to that. What's dhyana yoga? If you could set apart a period of time in your life and sit quietly in some place, and for a short period, instead of letting the mind run wild, you take it and you, with great effort, you try to pull it in and turn it towards that. That's called meditation. But that type of meditation is called dhyana. See, I can meditate on a beautiful girl all day. I can meditate on money. That's meditation. But when the meditation is joined to that thing, then it's called yoga. Karma, joined to that, is karma yoga. When meditation is joined to that, it becomes dhyana yoga. And perhaps the greatest and the hardest and the most sublime and the culmination of all sadhana is what's called bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga. What does the word bhakti mean? Devotion. Devotion, yeah. But I'm devoted to my children. Is that bhakti? I'm devoted to my wife. Is that bhakti? That's love. We call that, I love my children, I love my wife, I love my house, I love my bank account. But that's not bhakti. When love is turned to God, that love is then called bhakti. When you join the love to that inner witness, that Krishna, that Shiva, that Vishnu, all those words is nothing but the witness. You could call it anything. It really has no name, but we call it Krishna. Krishna says, Kshetrajna chapi mam vidi sarva kshetreshu. I am the witness in all beings, Arjuna. That's Krishna. If we don't know that, then we just call him the Supreme Being. And we have to fall in love with him. The Gita says, with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our might. I think they say that in the Bible too. Love thy God with all thy soul, with all thy heart, and with all thy might. And love thy neighbor as thyself, the Christian golden rule. So here, that's what we need. We need to fall in love with that. It has to become something that we want and we think about, devoted to that great devotion, that the mind has to want that and want to join with that, like we want to join with a lover. You want to join with that, the eternal lover that gives us infinite bliss, not just momentary. If you can develop that feeling, I want to talk about God, I want to read about God, I want to know God, I want to join with God, I want to become one with God. That's bhakti. That's called bhakti yoga. It's not easy, of course, because we love so many other things and the mind is out. But a bhakta, Krishna says in the Gita, Bhaktya eva mam abhijanati. By bhakti alone, you come to know me. this is not just an academic thing or an intellectual pursuit where you take an exam. If anybody's recorded this thing, they can study it, and then if I give a test, everybody can get 100 on it, theoretically. What good is it? It's only by bhakti that you'll come to know him in truth. Krishna says, Mat Bhakta Buddhi Yogam Dadami. I give my devotee the capacity, Buddhi Yogam, the yoga of discrimination. I give him the capacity. It's me, Paramatma, the Supreme Self. I give my devotee. He gets my grace. How do you get, when you turn to Paramatma, that inner witnessing consciousness, the Supreme Lord? Why is he called the Supreme Lord? I thought you said Vedanta is not theology. What's this Supreme Lord business? And surrendering to him. I'm going to stop for 1 second. Cut. I want a raise of hands. Who here, I've been trying to talk about the witness, right? The inner. Who thinks that they have any idea what I'm talking about? By a raise of hands. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay, so that's fantastic. All right, because it's not an easy concept. And it's hard to point this out to people, because if I had to point it out like that, then everyone could. But the witness you can't see. So you can't even think of it. But it's lighting up every thought. Okay. So that witness, let's look at it from your own point of view. Take your stand in the own witness and see that witness, everything arises, everything comes out of that witness. He's the creator of everything. He's the source of everything. It's the witness in which everything appears. You can see that, yes? That's called Brahma, the creator of the universe. When something appears, does the consciousness pervade that thing? It fully pervades it. It's lighting it up. And that means it's Vishnu. It's the all-pervading. Wherever you go, is there any place that witness is not? If I go to the Himalayas, is that witness going to be there? When I get under the covers at night and I put the head on, is the witness there? When I get back to England, is the witness going to be there? He's omnipresent. The whole universe arises in him. He's omnipotent. And that witness is the knower of everything. He's omniscient. Isn't that the definition of God? All-powerful, all-knowing, all-pervading. So when you're this individual, that witness in you is called God. When you know that witness is the only reality, then he's not God. But in relation to me, that's God. And I have to do my works as an offering to that Supreme Being. I have to meditate, dhyana yoga, and I have to fall in love with that, become consumed with that. It's like when you fall in love with a lover and you have to go to work. You're at work doing whatever you do, but the back of your mind, what is she doing? I wonder where she is. I can't wait till I get out of work. I'm going home. I'm going to see her. We'll have dinner together. this business. Whatever you're doing in the back, this is constantly, the main thing is that's what my supreme love, because the self is the most lovable. Everything is lovable for the sake of the self, but nothing is more lovable than my own self. How are we doing for time here? Good. I'm going to tell you a story. It'll kind of make it a little easier. Quick story. And this is the story from the Upanishads. Ancient story. There was a time in India when the kings were interested in this subject matter, the knowledge of the self, or the knowledge of Brahman. And the one king, his name was Janaka, and he wanted to know, who's the wisest man in my whole kingdom? He says, I know how to find out. I'm going to make a debate. And I'm going to offer the winner of the debate 1,000 cows. And on each horn of those cows, there's going to be 5 kilos of gold. That means 10 kilos, 20 pounds. American, you guys know kilos, so that's good enough. 10 kilos of gold, 1,000 cows, yeah? It's a big prize. He sent out his minions all over India to put up the poster. Big debate, 1,000 cows, who's ever the wisest guy, he's going to get it. And everybody came. That's the scholars, the idiots, monks, yogis, they all showed up for the debate. There's a big crowd at the palace. So the king said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to divide up into groups, and we're going to have a thing called the process of elimination. So one group, if you win your group and that guy wins that group, then you guys debate. And they finally got down to the last 3 or 4 debaters. I don't have to go into the details of the debate, but one guy won the debate, of course. And his name was Yajnavalkya. So the king went up to Yajnavalkya and says, Yajnavalkya, you are the wisest man in my kingdom. You've defeated all challenges. You are the best of the knowers of Brahman. I'm presenting you with the 1,000 cows, with the 10 kilos on each one. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom here in my palace. So Yajnavalkya looks at the king and says, Janaka, I certainly thank you for this, and I came here to win this prize. But you know, during the debate, I've decided, for me, I'm getting old now. I have no use for this business. I'm going off into the forest. Can I give my cows away? Janaka says, they're your cows. Do what you want. So it turns out Yajnavalkya had 2 wives. What does that show you? You don't have to be a celibate monk living in a cave to be the wisest guy. He had 2 wives, and he's the wise man. He calls his 2 wives. One wife was called Katyayana, and the other was called Maitreyi. He says, Katyayana, Maitreyi, please come. Katyayana, I'm giving you 500 cows with all that gold. Katyayana looks at Yajnavalkya and says, my dearest husband, you're so generous. You've taken care of me. I'll be fine now. I wish you well in the forest. I hope that you get whatever you want. Fine. He turns to his other wife, Maitreyi. He says, Maitreyi, I'm giving you 500 cows with all that gold. Maitreyi looks at him and says, Yajnavalkya, before I accept these 500 cows, I want to ask you one question. What's that, Maitreyi? If I take these 500 cows with all that gold, will I become immortal? So Yajnavalkya turns to him and says, Maitreya, you'll have a beautiful house. You're going to have servants. You'll eat what you want. You'll have the most comfortable life. Yajnavalkya, I asked you a question. What's that? Will I become immortal? Maitreya, I'm sorry to tell you that even with those cows, you won't become immortal. So Maitreya looks at him, says, then keep your cows. I want immortality. And Yajnavalkya looked at her and said, Maitreya, you were always dear to me, but today you're dearer to me than ever before. Come, sit by me. I will give you immortality. So he begins the teaching. And he says, in the very beginning, he says, to bring out the point, he says, Maitreya, the wife is dear, not for the sake of the self, but because it's my wife. The husband is dear, not for the sake of the husband, because it's my husband. The children are dear, not for the sake of the children, but because they're my children. The money is dear, not for the sake of the money, it's because it's my money. Everything is dear for the sake of the self. The self is the most beloved. That self, drashtavya, mantavya, nidityastavya, that self has to be seen. It has to be heard about. It has to be reflected on. It has to be contemplated on. I'm not going to tell you how he showed that that self, which is the most lovable, is the immortal reality. But he did it in a way that's similar that I've told you yesterday and today, that Maitreya, you're the witness. That witness which is the most lovable, that's the self that has to be known. At the end of the teaching, it ends just with the short sentence, Yajnavalkya, you bestowed upon me immortality. That's the end of it. It ends like that. So the self is the most lovable. We have to fall in love with that true self inside of us. That's called Bhakti Yoga. These are the practical things. The Bhagavad Gita is the Boy Scout handbook. It's the practical. The Upanishads are just like that, little stories of gurus and students. But if you want to know the practical life, what we have to do, then the Bhagavad Gita is the best Advaita text from a practical point of view. It teaches us karma yoga, it teaches us bhakti yoga, and it teaches us dhyana yoga. The three yogas that in the end culminate in that we can understand the teaching of the Upanishad, I am that. That's the practical aspect. Doing asanas is merely just one small part of it. It's an important part because you have to keep the body healthy. But we shouldn't think that that's the whole of yoga, because the true deeper meaning of yoga is to join with that witness and become one with it. Anything that helps us with that is called yoga in a secondary sense. And I think that's sufficient for today. I'm going to leave 5 minutes for questions. So if anyone has any questions from yesterday's talk or today's talk, we can discuss it. Yes.
I have a question. Why duality exists? Even if it's not real, why is it there? What's not the benefit, but the purpose of it?
Why does it... Did everyone hear the question?
No.
If there's just one reality without a second, then why does duality even exist? Here's how I'm going to try to answer that. Suppose there was a rope here, and that's the reality. There's really a rope. But it's kind of dark, and you looked at it, and you thought it was a snake. Yeah? So the snake is appearing, right? There's only a rope there. But because you don't know it's a rope, you've mistaken it as a snake. Now, I know the truth. There's only a rope. That's all there ever was. Even when you saw the snake, there was only a rope. Yeah? And if I put a flashlight and you look again, you'll see, oh, there never was a snake. There was only a rope. The reason the duality is appearing is because you don't know the truth. Just like the reason the snake is appearing is because you don't know the truth. If you knew the truth, duality would not appear. It's because the unknown self is said to be the cause of duality. And when the self is known, there's no duality. There never was. Even while it's appearing, there's no duality. It's because we don't know the truth that duality appears. But even though it's appearing, there's no duality. It never came. You want to know why is it here when it's not here? If you think it's here, the only answer we can give you is in the same way. Why did the snake appear? It's because you don't know that there's a rope there. That's the only answer. But it's a little different in this case because the answer I'm giving you is it's because of your ignorance that the duality appears. But when you know the truth, you'll also have realized there never was any ignorance and there never was any duality. You say there's duality, we say there's ignorance. Because you can easily ask me the same question, then why is there ignorance? And why? There never was. In other words, the absolute point of view is there's no ignorance of the self, there's no duality. But the relative point of view, where you think there's duality, yeah? From that point of view, the answer is because you don't know the truth. But when I realize I am that, what do I realize? There never was any ignorance and there never was any duality. That's the absolute highest truth. This other thing never was, is, or will be. There never was any ignorance, nor was there any world caused by that ignorance. But if you want to know why is there duality, the only answer can be because of ignorance. When the ignorance is gone, there never was any ignorance.
Then who is this person who is in this hologram?
Nobody
Why
realized.
is it a dream? Because if everything comes out of Brahman and goes back and it's
Nothing came out of Brahman, nothing goes back into Brahman.
So we don't exist.
We don't exist. That's if we did, duality would be real, yeah?
Okay. So
This is called Advaita. That's why I said it's the most unbelievable philosophy in the history of human thought.
this dream doesn't really exist. That Brahman
The dream doesn't, because what is a dream? A dream is that state in which the world that was appearing there seemed to exist, but in truth it never existed. There was no dream tiger at any time, or a dream person who saw. It never existed. But in the dream, you saw the dream tiger. Why? Because the only thing you can say is because you don't know the truth. But when you wake up, The whole thing it never really existed. Dream is not something that came into existence. It's an appearance. An appearance is that which seems to exist, but in fact never was. That snake, it appears to exist, but there was never a snake there. There's only a rope. That's the only answer. You can think about it. It may not seem very satisfying. If you think about it more, no, because this is a very fundamental and hard question. And it's a good question to ask. And you shouldn't accept anybody's answer, because Vedanta is not like that. You have to see, if I take my stand in the witness, is there any world at all? Then I don't have to give a reason why the world came. But as long as we're in duality, we want to know why it came. What's the reason? So then the only answer is ignorance. But the truth is, there's no ignorance. Okay. Any other questions? The practical, everybody knows karma yoga, dhyana yoga, bhakti yoga. The Bhagavad Gita is the practical text for Vedanta. We'll end it with just a short Sanskrit prayer. And that prayer means that witnesses fullness. Because of ignorance, that fullness looks like this fullness. From that fullness, this fullness apparently came. It didn't really come. If you take away this fullness, you know what remains? Anybody? Fullness. That's the whole teaching. There's only fullness. It appears like this. That is fullness, this is fullness. From that fullness, this fullness came. Take this fullness away, fullness alone remains. It's an ancient Sanskrit mantra. And we'll recite it. If anybody knows it, you can join me. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thanks for the opportunity, for allowing me to talk, Ellen and crew. Next year, right here. Okay.
Day 2 of Ira's talks. This was the 13th. February 19th, 2019. Thank you.
Pretty much.